Ladies and gentlemen, we are witnessing a critical inflection point in professional basketball negotiations. Former Major League Baseball executive David Samson has issued a stark warning to Women's National Basketball Association players. The owners hold all the leverage in these collective bargaining agreement talks, and any deal that gets done will be heavily weighted in favor of ownership, not the players. Samson, who served as president of the Miami Marlins and now hosts the Nothing Personal podcast analyzing sports business, has stated unequivocally that the players will not get anything close to what they think they are getting. This comes as Nafisa Collier, president of the Players Association, admits that someone is going to have to fold in these negotiations. The central issue tearing these talks apart involves how revenue is calculated. The players want expansion fees, relocation fees, and one-time broadcast signing bonuses counted as ongoing league revenue that factors into their compensation structure. The owners are flatly refusing because those are not recurring revenue streams. And according to Samson, the more the players push this demand, the more he guarantees there will be no deal at all. Before we go any further into this breaking situation, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. This channel brings you the unfiltered truth about what is really happening in professional sports business. We do not sugarcoat, we do not spin. We give you the facts that the mainstream media will not touch. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share this video because this information needs to reach every basketball fan who wants to understand why their favorite league might not have a season this year. Now let us get back to this unfolding crisis.
The WNBA Players Association, the WNBA are not even close to an agreement, not even remotely. Adam Silver stood up at the NBA All-Star game and said, hey, we're getting close to the 11th hour, and that's when deals happen. Right now, the WNBA is not in that sort of free fall, neither are the WNBA players. But you're going to read about certain players are taking other jobs. Even founders of Unrivaled are looking at other places to play in addition to Unrivaled, thinking that the WNBA won't get its act together, etc. Well, they've been putting proposals back and forth, and my answer to all of your questions is no. The proposal that the Players Association made is not even close. And the WNBA came out yesterday with its own statement about that proposal. The Players Association latest proposal remains unrealistic and would cause hundreds of millions of dollars of losses for our teams. We still need to complete 2 drafts, meaning the expansion draft, because there's expansion in WNBA, and the college draft. We need to complete the 2 drafts and free agency before the start of training camp and are running out of time. We believe the WNBA's proposal would result in a huge win for current players and generations to come. Do you like that? Do you think that quote was meant for you or for the players? Just curious. Do you think the WNBA is interested in winning the PR battle right now? No, there is no PR battle. There is nothing of any concern publicly about the WNBA, and that should concern owners of the WNBA, and it should concern players in the WNBA. That the talk that surrounded Caitlin Clark, the excitement, the juice surrounding women's basketball is it's coming out of the balloon. If you think that owners are going to sign a deal where they are guaranteeing an amount of money to their players that will guarantee financial underperformance for these assets, then you obviously don't understand business. Will there be a compromise at the 11th hour? You certainly would like to think so, but a compromise that is not weighted toward the owners is not going to happen. So if you are a WNBA player out there or somebody who is involved in the WNBA Players Association, please take this message seriously. Any sort of one-time revenue hit does not impact a business plan that a company has. When the Players Association wants to say to owners, you're having expansion fees, relocation fees, you're getting a one-time signing bonus from your broadcast partners, all of those one-time events are not calculated in terms of the viability of a business. And the more the players want to tell the owners to count relocation fees and expansion fees as part of going forward revenue, the more I guarantee there will not be a deal to be done. The owners have been clear. They will not count these expansion fees as part of the revenue model because it's not. Can you imagine? I mean, this is something, Coca, that I guess I'm going to try to make it relatable as much as I can. When you get a $100 bill on the street,
David Samson brings decades of experience running professional sports franchises. He understands the financial structures that make leagues viable or send them into bankruptcy. And his analysis of the current WNBA labor dispute is brutally honest. He explained on his podcast that the Players Association wants owners to include expansion fees and relocation fees as part of the revenue calculation that determines player compensation. They also want one-time signing bonuses from broadcast partners counted as ongoing revenue. Samson says this is financially impossible. Those are one-time monetary events. They do not represent the recurring cash flow that sustains a business operation year after year. You cannot build a compensation structure around money that only comes in once and never repeats. This has been stated on this channel for 6 months. The financial logic is inescapable. Expansion fees come in when a new team joins the league. That happens once per expansion team. It is not annual revenue, it is a capital event. Relocation fees occur when a franchise moves to a new market. Again, this is not something that happens every year. It is an occasional transaction that generates a one-time payment. Broadcast signing bonuses are paid when a media rights deal is first executed. They do not recur annually. The annual rights fees are recurring revenue. The signing bonus is not. The players want all of these one-time payments counted as part of the revenue base that determines their ongoing salaries. But salaries are recurring expenses. They happen every single year. You cannot fund recurring expenses with non-recurring revenue. That is fundamental business literacy. Samson points out the absurdity of the player's position with a simple question. Are the owners supposed to keep adding expansion teams every single year just to generate the fees needed to pay player salaries? The National Football League has not added a franchise in years. Leagues do not continuously expand. There are market limitations, infrastructure requirements, ownership group availability, and strategic considerations that determine when and whether expansion happens. You cannot build a financial model that assumes perpetual expansion. It is not realistic. It is not sustainable. And no competent business executive would agree to it. Yet this is what the Players Association continues to demand. The former Marlins president made clear that the more the players insist on counting relocation fees and expansion fees as part of ongoing revenue, the more certain it becomes that no deal will be reached. This is the line ownership will not cross. It would be financial malpractice to structure compensation around revenue that is not recurring. The league would be locking itself into salary obligations it cannot meet in years when no expansion or relocation occurs. It would guarantee financial instability, it would make long-term planning impossible, and it would demonstrate that the people running the league have no understanding of basic business principles. The owners will not do it. They cannot do it. And according to Samson, the players need to understand this reality immediately. Nafisa Collier recently gave an interview where she acknowledged that someone is going to have to fold in these negotiations. The phrasing is interesting. It suggests she recognizes that the current positions are incompatible, that compromise is necessary, that one side or the other will need to back down from their demands. She stated that the players do not believe what they are asking for is unfair, which is why they are asking for it. But she also said she understands this is a negotiation and believes things are trending in the right direction. However, she emphasized that players have to stand strong in what they believe and make sure they get a fair cut of the pie they are building together with the league. The problem with Collier's framing is that it assumes the pie is much larger than it actually is. It assumes revenue streams that are not sustainable. It assumes financial resources that do not exist on a recurring basis. The players believe they are building this pie together with the league, which is true in terms of on-court product and fan engagement. But the financial reality is that the league has never been profitable. It has been subsidized by the men's league for its entire existence. The new media rights deal provides genuine hope for future profitability, but only if expenses are controlled and compensation structures are based on actual recurring revenue. If the players succeed in forcing owners to count one-time fees as ongoing revenue, they will not be getting a fair cut of a pie. They will be destroying the bakery. What makes this situation even more absurd is that Nafisa Collier is promoting a partnership with Unrivaled, the competing 3-on-3 league that directly competes with the WNBA for players, sponsors, and audience attention, while simultaneously negotiating the WNBA collective bargaining agreement as president of the Players Association. She is wearing multiple hats that create obvious conflicts of interest. She co-founded a league designed to offer an alternative to the WNBA. She profits from that league's success, and now she is negotiating on behalf of WNBA players while promoting unrivaled partnerships. The optics are terrible, the conflict is blatant, and it raises serious questions about whose interests she is actually representing in these negotiations. David Samson's warning is clear. Any compromise that emerges from these talks will be weighted toward the owners. It has to be. The owners control the business. They absorb the losses. They provide the capital. They take the financial risk. The players provide the labor and the talent, which is valuable, but labor does not dictate terms when the business is not profitable. Labor has leverage when the business is thriving, and ownership needs to retain talent to maintain success. But when the business has never made money, when it depends on subsidies to exist, when it finally has a chance at profitability, but only if costs are controlled, labor does not have the leverage players think they have. The owners can walk away. They have been losing money for decades. If the players will not accept a deal that gives the business a chance to become sustainable, ownership can simply shut it down and stop the bleeding. The current negotiating positions involve a salary cap proposal. The players are asking for a cap of $9.5 million per team. The league has reportedly come up to $5.65 million. The likely compromise will land somewhere around $6.5 million, maybe pushing towards $7 million depending on final negotiations. That represents an increase in player compensation, which is reasonable given the new media deal and increased revenue potential. But it is nowhere near what the players have been publicly demanding. It does not include gross revenue sharing. It does not count expansion fees and relocation fees as recurring revenue. It represents a modest increase that reflects realistic business projections, not the transformative deal players have been talking about on social media. Here is what is most likely going to happen. There will be another 2 weeks of public posturing. Both sides will continue making statements designed to rally their respective bases. The players will talk about fairness and getting their share. The owners will talk about financial reality and business viability. Then, as the absolute drop-dead deadline approaches, as the moment arrives when games would actually need to be canceled, the two sides will suddenly find common ground. They will announce a deal that gives players a modest salary increase, improves some working conditions, maybe adds a few benefits or perks, but does not fundamentally transform the economic structure of the league. The players will do something dramatic on social media to make it look like they fought hard and won concessions. They will frame it as a victory, and then they will sign the deal and move on. This is how labor negotiations work in professional sports. There is posturing, there are threats, there are public declarations of resolve, and then there is a last-minute compromise that allows both sides to claim some level of victory. The players will get more money than they currently make. The owners will get a deal that does not lock them into financial suicide. Both sides will declare success, and the season will happen. But make no mistake, the deal will be weighted heavily toward ownership because that is the only type of deal that makes business sense given the financial realities of this league. Mark Cuban, the former owner of the Dallas Mavericks and current minority owner with significant influence, recently laid out a salary structure proposal for the WNBA. While his plan has flaws and raised some controversy, he made one point that needed to be said publicly by someone with his profile and credibility. He stated plainly that the WNBA does not have the money to pay players what they are currently demanding. It cannot happen. The resources do not exist. The revenue is not there. This is not an opinion. It is not a negotiating tactic. It is a mathematical fact based on financial statements and revenue projections. Cuban saying this publicly is important because the players need to hear it from high-profile figures they cannot easily dismiss as biased or uninformed. The Players Association has demonstrated throughout this process that basic financial realities are not sinking in. They continue making demands that are mathematically impossible to fulfill. They continue counting one-time revenue as recurring income. They continue assuming the league has resources that do not exist. They continue comparing their situation to men's leagues that generate billions in annual profit, ignoring that their league has never generated any profit at all. Either this reflects genuine financial illiteracy, or it reflects a negotiating strategy based on public pressure rather than business reality. Either way, it is not working. The owners are not budging on the fundamental issues because they cannot budge without destroying the business. Samson's analysis reinforces what has been obvious to anyone paying attention to the business side of professional sports. The players do not have the leverage they think they have. The owners are not going to cave on demands that would make profitability impossible. Any deal that gets done will reflect the financial constraints of a league that has never made money and desperately needs to control costs to have any chance of sustainability. The players can accept that reality and get a modest increase in compensation, or they can hold firm on unrealistic demands and watch the league shut down. Those are the options. There is no third path where the owners suddenly agree to financial terms that guarantee continued losses. Nafisa Collier saying that someone will have to fold suggests that at least some players are beginning to recognize this reality. The question is whether that recognition will translate into realistic negotiating positions before the deadline arrives. If it does, there will be a season with modestly improved compensation. If it does not, there will be no season, and the league may never recover. The choice belongs to the players at this point. They can fold on the unrealistic demands and accept a deal that reflects business reality, or they can stand firm and discover that the owners were entirely serious about walking away. Time is running out. The deadline is approaching. And according to one of the most experienced sports executives in the business, the players are about to learn a very expensive lesson about leverage, power, and financial reality in professional sports negotiations.